It's time to have your say. Welcome back to the Q&A. AskSCW here, answering your questions in the wrestling community straight after this. Coming up on today's show, going to be answering questions on WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, and much, much more. Top topics today, going to be giving you the matches I want to see at Slammiversary this year. Of course, matches that have not already been announced. And going to be kicking off the show talking about the Sasha Banks and Naomi situation. What has happened since I was last with you, and can it be fixed, the relationship between them and WWE? But before I do that, to let you know, if you want to be involved on the next Q&A here, you can drop a question in the comments below on YouTube, leave the hashtag AskSCW, or you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. All should come on your screen right about now. But without further ado, let's get on with our first question this week. And it comes from Bama Dave. Given what little we know about the Sasha-Naomi situation, should WWE find a way to work this out with them? What kind of storyline would you book using the stipulation to build up the women's tag division or build up Sasha and Naomi as singles stars? Without question, the biggest news story in the wrestling world this week. If you've been living under a rock, you may not be aware. Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out of Raw this past week. Of course, the show had just gone on air, and of course, then they were walked out of the building, basically. The match was advertised. They were going to be in the main event, a six-pack challenge to determine the #1 contender for the Raw Women's Championship at Hell in a Cell, which, of course, rumour had it that Naomi was meant to win. There was rumours going around that she was going to be initially pinning Sasha Banks in that match and perhaps teasing friction or a match further down the line between these two. Then it was changed that it was going to be Naomi would pin Nikki ASH in this match, and that eventually Naomi would be going for the Raw Women's Championship. Sasha Banks on the SmackDown side would eventually go to take on Ronda Rousey. Neither of them, as women's tag team champions trying to build up a tag team division, would be defending those championships or even having a mention of those belts until at least Money in the Bank. So I think creative issues and differences were a major factor in why they walked out. Now, of course, both of these women have been trying to establish this women's tag team division since reuniting as a team and winning those championships at WrestleMania, trying to get, tag team after tag team put together, establish a tag team division. They were really high on trying to get Nikki ASH and Doudrop as potential challengers going forward. Of course, those plans weren't in the works. Now, what do we know? We don't know too much on the situation. A lot of the information that I will give now is based on from what was Tom Collier's reported on his YouTube channel, and also what has been said by WWE, because of course they've had their say on the situation about, Sasha and Naomi not wanting to wrestle with two people in the ring. Apparently that information is false. That's something that was not there on the narrative. Apparently there's rumours going around as well that their contracts are due up very soon. Naomi's in 2 months, Sasha Banks later further in the year. WWE have suspended them indefinitely at this stage. Of course, their merch has been taken off the WWE shop as well. So at the moment where they're suspended indefinitely and they're independent contractors, right now that means their contracts are kind of frozen. They can't really do anything at this point. So WWE are putting the pressure on here, and they are very verbal on TV as well, the situation. Obviously Corey Graves got a lot of heat for what was fed in his ear about saying unprofessional from Vince McMahon. I assume it's Vince McMahon that probably fed it to him in his ear. And as well, Michael Cole having a big speech on SmackDown this week as well, saying that let millions of fans down, let the superstars down, let the company down. Pat McAfee's face was quite interesting to see during that segment, by the way. Do rewatch that if you get an opportunity to on YouTube or on social media. Yeah, I mean, obviously the big play here is that WWE are going in hard on this one. And of course, Sasha and Naomi, they weren't a part of SmackDown this week. Either they weren't in the building, weren't around anywhere. So what is going to happen going forward? Because obviously we could have a stance where they're not going to be around for a very long time. And if the contracts are frozen, well, they can't go off and do anything anywhere else. They can't just wait and sit it out unless there gets a point where Nick Khan says, right, okay, no, we will release them. But from the understanding, this is coming from Tom Collyer, is that WWE don't want to let them go. They don't want them to go to the competition, but they see value in keeping them in the company. And obviously, why wouldn't they? With Sasha Banks, obviously, she's been in the main event of WrestleMania, one of the 4 horsewomen. She's been, one of the best of all time in the women's division, had so many reigns as women's champion. And Naomi, she's a mainstay. She's been a part of the women's division since 2010, I think, was her breakthrough in NXT, with the game show part. And then obviously she's been teamed with the Usos. And of course, she's now married to Jimmy Uso, of course, who's then been with the Bloodline as well. So, she's got a lot of ties in WWE. So I'm sure WWE would want to iron these issues out and don't want to see those talents, you know, gone elsewhere, because like I say, both have a lot of fandom in both of them, and whatever side of the fence anybody is on, for me, I'm going to say, rather than saying picking a side, I'm playing the neutral card here, but I want to see them back on my TV screen. I want this thing sorted out, and the best way to sort it out for me, WWE have announced there's going to be a women's tag team tournament, so this is an opportunity for WWE to establish a women's tag team division. We're going to probably get about 4 to 8 teams that are going to be thrown together. That probably may not make a lot of sense, but then we'll get new women's tag team champions out of it. Maybe this could be an opportunity as well to bring in Toxic Attraction or a couple of teams from NXT as well. Maybe we can merge those championships. We're getting a lot of unifications of late anyway. Get it to how it was meant to be to begin with, where you can tour between Raw, SmackDown and NXT. The team then at the end that wins those championships, you know, they've then perhaps been built their way, get to Money in the Bank, where perhaps that's the place where they crown the champions, and then perhaps that's the place that if they can smooth things over with Sasha and Naomi, can bring them back to TV. Look, you've got a division to work with. We've got everything that's going to be in place for you now to go forward with it. Then Sasha and Naomi can come back and challenge for those championships. They can go and stake their claim, and they can. The best thing they're going to do, they have to address it somehow to the audience of what's happened, because WWE have made it so public. You know, it makes people say, is it a work, is it a shoot? I'm on the side of I believe it's all full 100% shoot. I don't think there's any work in this, and I'm happy to be wrong proven at the end if that is the actual case. But I believe that perhaps Sasha and Naomi can say, look, you know, if we've upset any of our fans, we're sorry, but we did what we thought was right for your enjoyment for the tag team division. We fought for what we believed in, and I do think a lot of fans do understand that they're fighting for what they believe in, and they do have a lot of fan support. So that's the way I would bring them back. I wouldn't go with the single stars now that they've actually announced this tag team division, because that's what these women want. They want to be in as tag team champions, as a team in an established division. To bring them back as single stars when Naomi goes for the Raw Women's Championship and Sasha goes for the SmackDown, might as well stuck around. So yeah, for me personally, that's how I would bring them back. That's how I would book it. I do think WWE, if I had to guess, I mean, in the way the situation works, I do feel that they will buckle eventually and bring the needs to bring these women back, because WWE, they've always got people back in the end eventually. I mean, Austin walked out before. I know people are already screaming CM Punk at the screen, but he left the company. But I mean, most people that go, whether it's Bret Hart with the Montreal Screwjob, comes back. Ultimate Warrior came back when you thought there'd be no return with that. So usually where there's a will, there's a way, and I think WWE will have to be the ones that show the first sign here to try and get them to come back when perhaps enough time has passed where Sasha and Naomi will listen, and perhaps if they see something going on with that women's tag team division, maybe, just maybe, they will start to listen. So we'll have to see how it's going to progress over the next coming days, weeks, hopefully not months. But yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest stories going today, and it'd be interesting to know people's thoughts below. Do you think that it will get made up? I think it will eventually. If I had to put a time in it, as I said earlier on, I think Money in the Bank, perhaps going towards SummerSlam, I think that'll be the time. It's not the first time Sasha Banks has been away, by the way. Obviously, with the women's tag team division before, they lost those championships to the Iconics. Sasha took a break then, she came back. So I don't see why she wouldn't come back again. So yeah, I'm hopeful that this can be mended, and I hope that it will go into the talent's favour, because I want the creative to work where it works for the talent, because they're the ones that got to showcase it. And you know, for me, I want the women's tag team division to work out. So for those reasons, I hope that it does happen, but we'll have to wait and see as time goes on. Noob and Cove, our next question now. What other matches do you want to see for Slammiversary? And some suggestions from Noob here. The Briscoes for the Impact Tag titles. Maybe Taya Valkyrie defends the AAA Reina de Reinas title. Maybe Masha Slamovich versus Havoc. And possibly a Knockouts Tag Team title match. Some really fun suggestions there. I like the look of some of what you've put to the table. Then I'll probably fill in some of the blanks there for you as well, because I do see some more of those championship matches happening on Slammiversary. Now, so far what we've got as a lineup card, we've got Josh Alexander going against Eric Young for the Impact World Championship. Of course, Eric Young winning Gauntlet for the gold to get the opportunity. Love the promo package they did for Eric Young this week as well, with basically the evolution of his career, basically going from where it started to where we are now. And now we're getting the purest, realist form of Eric Young. Thought it was really absolutely a masterpiece the way it was put together, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that match between those two. We've got Queen of the Mountain for the first time. Of course, everyone familiar with the King of the Mountain match. We've got it for the ladies for the first time for the Knockouts Championship. So we've got the likes of Tasha Steelz defending against Diana Perazzo in there, Mia Yim, we've got Chelsea Green, and of course we've got Jordan Grace to round up the lineup. And of course we've got the X Division, Ultimate X as well. And so far, 3 superstars, I'm not mistaken, are in this match. Ace Austin, Kenny King, and Speedball Mike Bailey rounding things off. Now to go where I think obviously we've got a lot of nostalgia. Of course, it's 20-year anniversary of Impact, so some things I want to see brought in, like a Monsters Ball, I think is very with TNA back in the day. It still goes to this day in Impact Wrestling, so I'd like to see it brought in. Abyss was the master of that back in the day, but Decay seems to have taken it on, so I would like Decay, and we have been teasing a match with them against the Influence, so I hope that is put together. I do think though we could get Masha versus Havoc, but I know that match is set for Impact tapings next week, but it could establish to a further on feud for them. But I hope that Decay goes for the tag titles, as that's what I preferably would like. Now, I would have said Mo City Machine Guns to go for the tag titles because we said we've got this nostalgia thing going on, but I'm going to go for the Briscoes against the Good Brothers because, well, the Good Brothers won at the Multiverse of Matches, of course, back in April, and now the Briscoes are the champions. Good Brothers have always been going for the titles, so it does have a natural fit and an easy story to put together here for me. And of course, if people are aware of Impact spoilers, which I'm not going to give too much away, I do think that Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley could have their attention elsewhere on the card. So what I will say is, on No More, I'd like to be involved in Lethal Lockdown. Yes, I'm bringing all back the favourites of the old days of TNA, and it's been so long since we've seen a Lethal Lockdown. So them against potentially, as I've said, and pause or go forward 10 seconds now if you can in the video, because I talked about it on the last Q&A, Aces and Eights. That would be my link that I would put together with that. And of course, Sami Callihan against Moose has to happen. Personally for me, another one of those matches that could be under like a Monsters Ball kind of stipulation, but of course, Sami Callihan loves a death match, doesn't he? So for me, that would definitely be the one. It has to have all the toys out of that, the baseball bats, you know, the steel chairs, the thumbtacks. It's not a Sami Callihan sort of death match if there isn't involved. So those things I definitely want to see. I can see Rich Swann going against Matt Cardona as well. Matt Cardona, of course, is on his honeymoon right now, but of course expect him to be there come time for the show, and Rich Swann has already thrown his name in the hats. And Noob, I agree with you, the AAA Reina de Reinas Championship should be on the line. Taya Valkyrie, who would she take on, I suppose, is the question. Perhaps Savannah Evans was in that 6 ladies tag match this past week on Impact, so that could be a potential avenue they could go down. But we mentioned Masha there in the question. Maybe she could be the one that could go after Taya. So there's lots of different ideas and ways they could go with this, and I want to see Steve Macklin fit into this card somewhere as well. Maybe he goes Ultimate X, maybe it's a good place to put him in. But this is shaping up to be a really, really good show, and those are the matches I would add into it as well. Let me know what matches you would add in the comments below. And I've probably gone very gimmick match heavy, but you know what? It's Impact. It's a special occasion. So, you know, we've had Shark Boy return, so anything can happen at this point when it comes to Impact Wrestling, I think, going forward, heading into Slammiversary this year. And I do hope we get 1 or 2 debuts as well, just like we've had in the last couple of years as well, to maybe a couple of game changers if you want going forward. And certainly for me, yes, he was Johnny Elite this past week on AEW. I think Johnny Impact would be a good shout to come in for that main event scene, and I've said it a couple of times on this channel already, I'd love Dakota Kai to come in for the women's division. I think she'd be an awesome standout for the Knockouts division, and perhaps even to go straight in for that Knockouts championship at as soon as possible date after Slammiversary. Next question comes from Martin Lorenzo Carrillo. Pick one personal favourite championship feud of each Impact, AEW and WWE from 2019 to current products, and what made them so special to your enjoyment for wrestling. Fantastic question, this one. It's going to be hard to narrow things down to one. I might have to cheat on this question a little bit, Martin, if you don't mind. But I'll start with All Elite Wrestling then to give them a turn on this Q&A. And of course, the story of Hangman Adam Page from the start to the finish, the millennial cowboy who couldn't get the job done, couldn't become the first ever AEW World Champion, losing faith in himself to go into a tag team with Kenny Omega, to then have his heart broken, of course, by Kenny Omega, and of course, the Elite in general being thrown out of the group. Kenny Omega becoming the World Champion, for the fact then that Hangman had to find himself, get that courage, get that support from the Dark Order, to then finally get himself into that top position. Of course, winning that Casino ladder match to get himself into full gear, and of course, then becoming the AEW World Champion. For me, it just doesn't get much better than that. It's a 2-year storyline as well, real emotional roller coaster from start to finish. Almost one of the journeys that started at the beginning of AEW to get to the point that we are at now with him as world champion. So for me, that's definitely going to be the one from AEW. From Impact Wrestling as well, it's very hard to say. There's two really that are neck and neck for me. I do like Josh Alexander's most recent feud and journey to become world champion for the second time. Of course, he won it the first time at Bound for Glory, and of course, Moose called his shot while his family was in the ring. It was very personal, very gripping from the off. It was just a whoa factor because you're just not used to seeing family being in the ring. Of course, his child was in the ring as well when that pinfall was made. It felt very personal very quickly, and Josh Alexander having to jump through hoops to get himself back in that position. Of course, it did make other title matches for Moose on the road to Rebellion a bit predictable, but still, I think the storyline narrative was really, really strong from Impact, and I liked the way that it sort of delivered in the end, giving your world champion Josh Alexander at that Rebellion show. And he's now the face of the company, and arguably as well, he's not come from WWE, he's not come from, AEW, he's been from the independents, and he's someone that you just turn around and say, technically an Impact guy is now your face of the entire company, especially after this last 12 months when you've had the likes of Kenny Omega and Christian Cage doing it, who have been from elsewhere. So for me, that definitely is a story that stands out, but I'm going to cheat and going to give a second one from Impact. Deonna Purrazzo and Mickie James, they just took it to a whole new personal level. The fact that it went through, into NWA with the attack there after the anniversary show. The disrespect as well. Deonna felt being invited onto that show. The fact she should have been a shoo-in to the all-women show. The fact that it continued going through multiple different matches, multiple different shows, of course, main eventing Hard to Kill as well, and there was real buzz with those two at that point with that match taking place as well. So that has a bit of a special place, real enjoyment. I think it's those long told stories that grip me and give me those bits of enjoyment from those storylines. And to go with WWE, this one wasn't as long drawn out probably, but I'd say Kofi Mania is definitely one that sticks out in the mind there because it was so organic as well. The fact that Kofi wasn't meant to be in the spot, obviously then the audible wasn't called at Elimination Chamber, but he was the guy that everyone wanted to win. The fact that he got himself into WrestleMania to go and defeat Daniel Bryan as well at that point when he was the champion, and of course DB having that special championship as well. But I think just the history around it as well, the fact that this has probably inspired a generation. It was history making as well, with Kofi winning that championship at that point. So Kofi Mania, I think, definitely deserves a shout from 2019 for now. But I do have to give another shout to another one as well, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. The way the bloodline came along, and just how Jey Uso became a top guy. That family feud just worked so well. I remember when Jey Uso became the #1 contender, and I thought, oh, this is just gonna be one show and it's not gonna stand out, and it's just gonna be like filler for Roman Reigns. But actually the storyline was personal, family, the way that Jimmy was brought in the middle of it, the way it sort of went through that first show and then went through to Hell in a Cell as well to become the I Quit stipulation, because Jey just wouldn't give up. He was showing that he could be a top guy, and it almost feels a shame that they never revisited it. It just gone into the bloodline and that's it. But now you see them, they can complete bloodline, complete unified champions as well. Roman having, of course, the WWE Championship and, of course, the Universal Championship. Now the Usos have the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Championship. So that storyline turned out all right as well at the time. It made Jey a bigger deal. Jimmy coming in became a bigger deal when he returned from, I think, an injury at that point as well. And, of course, now these guys, they're all head of the table. So, yeah, those probably be the two for WWE for me from a championship standpoint. Kofi Mania and Roman versus Jey, but just both two very beautifully told stories. So, for me, really, really enjoyed those. So, yeah, those are the ones I'm going to pick. We're intrigued to know what people pick in the comments below. Last question this week coming from Underground Temple. Do you think the IWC are a bunch of opinionated people and we should just watch what we enjoy regardless of what anyone says about said wrestling company? To be honest, yeah, we are very opinionated. I think a lot of people in the IWC have got their takes on pro wrestling, of what they think is the right way, the wrong way, what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy. For me, it'd be rich for me to say that people shouldn't share their opinions, wouldn't it? Because I have a YouTube channel. I share my opinions all the time, whether I like something, whether I don't like something. The only difference I'd like to say from a personal standpoint, and I hope it comes across this way because it's what I try to intend all the time, is I like to be constructive, especially, well, if it's positive as well, but especially when it's negative, of what I would do different, or why it didn't connect with me. But sometimes it's nice to hear other opinions, because someone might share an opinion and I might think to myself, I didn't see it from that direction, so it makes me more connected to the storyline than maybe what I would have been otherwise. So I can be swayed from what I see, and that's why I enjoy watching so many different content creators, because so many people got different flavors and different opinions, and I think that it's a fun place to be. But I do feel like that this question is more balanced on perhaps maybe, let's say, a certain section of the IWC. Perhaps people that are looking for attention more than sharing what their own opinions are. And that's what I generally think a lot of those people, when they do that, are. Because someone that's, let's say, is pro AEW, hates WWE, bashes WWE, hasn't watched it for 4 or 5 years, what's the point? Like, seriously, what is the point of that? And vice versa as well. If you don't like AEW and you don't watch it, don't bash it. There's no need to. Why take away, or trying to attempt to take away, someone else's enjoyment? Particularly if you like both watch the same product and you enjoy something and the other person doesn't. The one that doesn't, if you're watching this, don't make the other person feel like they shouldn't enjoy it. If someone else enjoyed it, that's up to them. It's pro wrestling. It's our interpretation of what we take from it. Yes, there is definitely a portion of this community that makes me sometimes wish I didn't spend so much time in the community, but I tend to, not interact with those people as much. And hey, if you really don't like what someone's got to say or like their opinion, there is always a mute button. So there is lots of different options of what you fancy depending on what your flavour is. But personally for me, wrestling is for enjoyment. As you can probably tell with this channel, I watch a lot of wrestling. I watch a lot of current, I watch a lot of different companies, I watch retro stuff as well. So I actually enjoy a lot of wrestling and I like to share those opinions. I think it's good that we share opinions. It's good to be able to have a vocal platform, and I think there's so many great people, as I say, that make content, and I feel very privileged that I can actually interact with a lot of those people that create content, whether it's on my channel or whether it's on someone else's channel. I think that's always a special part of doing this and what makes it so fun as well. But yeah, there is that minority, certainly, that I think definitely needs to be ignored. And of course, as I say, if you're someone that's sitting there going, oh, I don't like that opinion, like I say, we just move on to the next person, because those people, they're trying to get traffic on their channels. And to be fair, if they're saying idiot stuff, then, I mean, by not interacting with it or not giving it attention, that's what's going to make them feel silly at the end of the day, because they won't be getting the attention that they want from said tweet that's been put out. But that's all we've got time for this week here on AskSCW. Thank you for your questions as always. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, share and subscribe as well, and drop a comment in the comments below with anything that's been discussed on this episode. I look forward to interacting with you, and of course you can always drop a question in, leave the hashtag AskSCW, and I can include it in the next episode. But AskSCW will be back in a fortnight for you now. That we'll be taking a break next weekend, so that it won't be on this channel. But I will look to do Double or Nothing predictions in the week, and as well as that, we'll try and do a live Q&A as well. So plenty to look forward to still here on YouTube. And of course, I did promote it. It's not had the chance to come out yet, but I will get it out as soon as possible. What is the greatest Hell in a Cell match of all time, according to wrestling YouTube? As I say, it's fun to interact with the IWC, and it's good to get, or perhaps even the YWC on this particular occasion, and get their take on these sort of topics. But anyway, that's all from me. Check out these videos on the side of the screen right now. Have yourselves a great day. You've been watching SCW here on YouTube. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you next time. All the best.